This episode of Third Degree, the podcast, is dedicated to Rags Gardner, one of the original photographers of the Dallas Burn. His work was frequently featured on thirddegree.net. Rest in peace, Rags.
Yeah. Woo. Ooh. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.
Well, hello there, DFW soccer curious person you. Welcome to another episode of Third Degree, the podcast. And this one finally feels like something fun to do, as Dallas got a home win Saturday night, and so many good things came out of that particular night. It was Dallas Burn Throwback Night. The new jerseys came out. A bunch of classic heroes were in the building. I got to hug Jason Kreis and Brandon Pollard at the exact same time. My brain almost melted. And we had what I think was the most needed moment in this club's recent past, which is one Sam Sarver. And we'll talk all about that over the course of this particular episode. There he is. It is the good Dan Crooke. Howdy, Big D.
How's it going?
Well, you know,
obviously pretty peachy, right?
Hey, winning is fun.
I was really surprised when the fireworks went off at the game. I forgot that they did that after those wins. But the highlight of the weekend was absolutely Jason Kreis complimenting my sneakers.
Oh, wow. That is a good moment. Good. You probably have to write that one down on the calendar. And checking in from parts somewhere, not North Texas, probably temperate climate, really nice outside or whatever. It is your hero, my hero, everybody's hero, editor, founder of thirddegree.net, and the original soccer influencer himself, Buzz Carrick. Come in, Buzz.
Yeah, it was most of the day today was in the mid-50s where I was driving. I think it's probably about 60-something where I am now.
F you, Buzz.
Up here in Boise at the minute.
I hate you.
No, I'm on my way back. I'll be in the hundreds soon enough.
You know what? You weren't here for the amazing night at the stadium. So there, stick that up yours.
I know. Jason Kreis came back for the first time in 20 years. That's awesome. I love it.
I was walking back to my seat and I saw Jason speaking to somebody. So I paused to say hello. He was very nice. I don't quite know if he remembered who I was. He recognized me, but I'm still not sure he remembered who I was. But we were having a fantastic conversation when out of the blue, somebody kind of grabbed me from behind, and I turn around, and it was none other than Brandon Pollard, the great Brandon Pollard himself. And I had a pretty weirdo moment standing there talking to Jason and Brandon for another 5 or 10 minutes. It was really great.
Did you feel like you were 30 years old again?
Yeah, something like that. It was really cool. So, and Zarko was there, and Mark Dodd was there, and they recognized Andy and all the other guys. It was
Richard Ferrer.
Richard Ferrer was there. Yes.
Yeah.
Jeff Cassar, and I'm sure I'm forgetting one of the others, but by and large, I think the team did it really upright. I'm just nitpicking. Sorry. I was really hoping they'd play Disco Inferno after goals and after the win. They did not do that. I thought that may have been a missed opportunity to capture that great moment. But that said,
they did keep with the 90s theme though.
They did. Yeah, they did. But it was the best part of the evening, other than the game itself we'll get into, was just seeing everybody breaking out all their old Burn gear. I wore my original 97 red away shirt. That's my favorite Burn kit of all times. And then I got some guy walked up to me, and he was wearing the white home version. And so we took a picture side by side of each other with those shirts. And I saw there was a guy walking around in a Atletica Joselita Vaca shirt.
I saw that.
Did you see that guy? Wow, what a great shirt that was. His wife was wearing the original green training Nike shirt. I love that thing. Yeah. So
I saw someone with an Alan Suter 97 jersey.
Oh, fantastic.
But the best one by far was Bobby Ryan's son Miller wearing his 98-99 jersey.
That's nice.
I didn't see that. I wish I had. That's awesome. But I was really, really impressed with the number of Dallas Burn throwback jerseys, the new one, the new shirt that they released. I was really impressed with how many people had rolled theirs out and were wearing them during the game. And I'll be damned, that thing looks fantastic. And I know I'm jumping through the run sheet here, but I just got to get to this, Dan, because all along we were really worried that they had not used the green, but they had gone some sort of gold or yellow on the accent color. And I guess that was probably a byproduct of some of these marketing material photos that they had been sending out, where MLS just insists on using these ridiculous filters that change colors. And the shirts in person are perfect. The green is perfect. The black, the red, all of it is great. And really the chef's kiss is the font kit on the back. The green numbers with the red trim and the white letters. Holy cow. All those shirts look fantastic.
Did you see the Gazelles in person?
Yes.
I think Andy had a pair.
Andy was wearing them during the radio show earlier in the day. Yeah, they're great too.
They photographed as like bright yellow, and that green is perfect.
It's perfect. It really is. The shirts are great. I can't wait to order one for myself. I'm waiting because I want one with a number and the patches and everything. So I want to get all that sorted out.
You'll be waiting until next month then.
Yeah, I don't mind waiting.
Unfortunately, I wear above a large, so they never got the authentics in, and who knows when they will.
Oh, wow. Well, it was a great night for a whole bunch of other reasons, but just in terms of the Burn stuff and the throwbacks and everything, I thought that was all really, really great. Buzz, before we get... I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Dan?
Oh, I was going to say, just kind of on that. So before the game, I got a chance to go to the Players' Lounge to speak to a few of the players and whatnot while they were doing all like their TV interviews, and bumped into Andy down there. Spoke with Dan Hunt for a bit about the jerseys, and they had this table laid out where they'd, I guess it was a whole weekend thing, so they hosted them all for dinner on the Friday night. Supposedly everyone was drinking till like 2 a.m. and still looked fresh as a daisy. They had these boxes on the table. So like blue FC Dallas boxes, you lift the lid and it's got a little video screen inside that plays a welcome home message with like highlights of all of them, plays a little song.
Oh, wow.
With all like their, I don't know if the jerseys were in there, but like scarves, socks, some, just a bunch of like little gifts for them.
That's cool.
So that was really cool to see that.
Yeah, that was great. I was thinking about it while you were talking about that. I realized I should have asked Jason if I could take a picture of the back of his shirt with his, because they had his number and his name on the back of the shirt, and it looked great up front. And I didn't get a picture of that, but anyway, it was a good time. And Buzz, before we get into the game, I think we really want to spend some time, now that I've blown 10 minutes yammering about the unimportant stuff, or maybe it was the important stuff.
That is the important stuff. Yeah. It was the happy stuff.
The happy stuff. We got to start with really the big crisis moment that's going on. So while all this other stuff good is happening all the way over here, don't look behind the curtain, kids, but something is brewing, as Luchio Acosta and Pedrinho both were not listed on the injury report, yet neither one of them showed up in the 18, and the only thing we heard from the club was, quote, personal reasons. Buzz, what's really going on here?
Well, yeah, we got to back up in time a little bit. You can call it whatever you want. We go back to the LAFC game, and we were hearing, leading up to the game, that Acosta had been dropped and that he was losing his captaincy, and it was all related to a tendency to be late to a bunch of stuff more recently, and you can sum it up as not great leadership. And Pedrinho started that game, and then Acosta came in and got that yellow card. Whether he did it on purpose or whether it was just a dumb moment for him doesn't really matter. And then you might have assumed that like that would be the end of it, that like, okay, now he's going to be suspended, he's going to miss the San Jose game. But something else happened. And that something is Acosta and Pedrinho basically broke team rules and went out past curfew, believe that night. And Quill just sent them home. That's why they ended up back in Dallas and not going to San Jose with the team. And that's why, other than the actual suspension from Acosta, that's why Pedrinho was sent with him and why he didn't play. And that effectively is why they didn't make the 18 on this game. Now, you can put down personal reasons, you can put down whatever you want, but the answer at this point is coach's decision. Quill has chosen not to pick those guys. Now, what does it mean? Well, the vibe and the chitter chatter that we're getting is basically something that is reflected in Quill's quotes. And if you looked at his quotes, like following San Jose and leading into the St. Louis game, and even after the St. Louis game, you see things where he says, like, the guys on the field had great chemistry. The guys that were here were fighting for a playoff spot. And, like, if you extrapolate that kind of talk forward, you get what we're kind of hearing, which is the idea that, like, we're going to try and make the playoffs with the people that want to help us make the playoffs, the people that are here, that want to play, want to fight with us to make the playoffs. So, you know, effectively, Quill is taking control of his locker room and taking control of his team in a sense. Now, does this mean Acosta never plays for this team again or Pedrinho never plays for this team again? Who knows? I think it's going to be up to them. This is my interpretation at this point. I think it'll be up to them to try and earn their way back into the good graces of the coach and earn their way back on the field, because look at how this team has responded in 2 games, both in terms of like the mentality of the players and the actual play on the field. A change in tactics has come along with that as well. So, you know, it's a pretty straightforward scenario where your before that captain was not leading your team in a way the coach found acceptable. He's dealt with it, and now the team will move forward. And you can talk about personal reasons all you want. You can talk about off-field, you know, Acosta had a suspension, and then he was going, oh, she had something going on. You know, the bottom line is the coach didn't pick him. So good on Quill for standing up for himself in his locker room and taking the steps that needed to be taken. You know, and hopefully he's a good enough coach and a strong enough coach that he can allow those guys to work hard. And if they come in and toe the line, then I assume they'll be back into the team. You know, you can think back to the way Oscar Pereira used to say that you got to have everybody rowing together. If people are rowing in different directions, you're never going to get anywhere. Everyone's got to play together and be in this together. And that's basically where they are at this point. The team that is playing together are the guys that took the field against San Jose and against St. Louis, and they did a good job.
Dan, I have not listened to the post-game conference or Quill's post-game conference. Did anybody specifically ask and grill him on the situation, and did he comment to those questions at all?
No. I think the win obviously kind of changes the mood a little bit. But yeah.
You got to ask the question, guys.
Well, I mean,
you guys are in the room. You got to ask the questions.
Here's the thing. If the team missed either of them, someone's going to 100% ask that question.
Yeah, but listen.
But they put the best performance of the season in without them. So
Dan Hunt spent $5 million out of his pocket for an MLS MVP, and he's been...
No, I agree. I will say one thing they did do to potentially like preemptively head it off was they limited 5 questions. No one could ask more than one. So mine is always the Leanne special of getting coaches' thoughts on the games, because that's the quotes we use for just about everything. And then beyond that, I think the emphasis was really more on Sam Sarver and Josh Torquato than, you know.
Understood. Well, all right. So, Buzz, I think a byproduct of all this is the fact that the teams, like this time last week, we were talking about having to go on the road to play at San Jose and then come here and play a home game where they have been terrible at home. And we were worried they'd come away with this with 0 points, but here we are. They've got 4 points instead. I think we can agree that we saw improvements in the team, and some adjustments from Quill tactically that I think surprised us and have impressed in some ways. So let's talk about those things, starting with the San Jose game where Dallas ends up getting a 2-2 draw. I think probably feeling unlucky, or not unlucky, but I'm hoping those guys were pissed at themselves for not coming away with a full win after the way they gave up the tying goal.
Oh yeah, that was one of Quill's quotes, was that like myself, he speaking for himself, and all the players in the locker room, they felt they deserved to win that game. At the end of the day, of course, you have to be able to actually execute and do that, and you can't make some mistakes that happen. But, they changed to basically this, what I'm going to call a 3-4-3. You could call it a 3-5-2. It's effectively the same formation. The front three sort of shift and rotate. You can easily see how that formation would have worked with Acosta instead of Pedrinho against San Jose, right? Those guys are interchangeable. If they're sort of drifting underneath, and either it's Kamungo or it's over the next two games, Farrington, like whoever's going to be playing high alongside Musa, like it could be Anderson Julio eventually. You can see how that shape can adapt. The real important part was the three at the back with wing backs. You can call that a 5 if that's your bread and butter, and looking at a double pivot with Ramiro and Kaick. So those things, they set up to work with those guys if they come back. And yet it also works with the guys they put out on the field. So particularly for me, when you go with this back three, which of course, since Dallas is not a possession team, they sit back a lot, and really it looks a lot like a 5-4 a lot of times, but it tightens up the back. It limits the defensive responsibility for the two wingbacks, Torquato, who's 17 years old, and in the first game, Shaq Moore, who's more of an attacker, and in the second game, Sebastian Lletget, who's more of an attacker as well. It tightens up the back. It allows a clean double pivot in the middle, where Kaick's range can overcome Ramiro's stagnant play, but Ramiro can just sort of sit in there, and Kaick can run all over. Really, the tactic worked really well. So it was a nice change on Quill's part, and I thought it was designed to both take advantage of the team that he has now, because remember, these hybrid shapes they've been using aren't all about Acosta. They're only partly about Acosta. And this one will work too with Acosta or Pedrinho if those guys get back into the team and back into the coach's thinking patterns.
So from the San Jose game, let's just focus on that first. Any particular thoughts on or performances from that particular match that you wanted to point out or talk about?
Well, Torquato obviously is immense to watch a 17-year-old play as well as he is, coming in and starting games. That's really tremendous. He'll be 18 later this week, I believe it is. But still remarkable to watch a guy who's gone from, in the space of 6 months, gone from a U18 Academy player to an North Texas player to now a first-team player. Just fantastic on his part. He's a guy that he doesn't really have something in his game that, like, to me jumps out as, like, exceptional that you might hang his progress on. He's just a all-around really quality soccer player. And I honestly couldn't tell you like what his ceiling is, because every time he plays at a level, I go, wow, what a great soccer player. And then he competes and he plays well, and they move him up a level. Wow, what a great soccer player. He just keeps going up the chain. And so at some point, maybe you think that like just being a good soccer player might not be enough, but who knows where that's going to be for the kid. He's doing a great job at his age. So that performance is particularly remarkable. Petar Musa, of course, had two goals in back-to-back games. I think that says a lot about the chance creation that's coming in this new shape, working with double pivot, working with these wings that they've got available to them. Kaick's game reading is coming along really nicely. He's really improving that. He's not lunging and having to make these giant flying 2-footed tackles at the rate at which he was before, because he's reacting earlier. Maybe that's playing alongside Ramiro, like a fellow Brazilian speaking the Portuguese and giving directions. Maybe that's all part of it. So those are the guys really for me that jumped out and said like, wow, look at what an improvement that is, for one, from a kid you never seen before at all, but also from Kaick and from Musa, who is a star player. That doesn't mean those guys can't improve when things get going for them and they start getting the ball in places where they can score. It's terrific.
I feel like it's not a stretch to say the goal that they scored in the 85th minute, the second goal, might be one of the nicest team collective sequence goals all season for this team.
Yeah, I think in general, you're right. That is a fantastic goal. I think in general, what you're seeing is a team of players, a real roster is not just a bunch of talent dumped in a pile. You have to get guys that are all working together. And when Acosta has been in there, you got a lot of guys that are standing there watching Acosta play. And he would dribble into traffic and lose it, or he would try and make a pass and lose it. Now when he's not in there, everyone else goes, okay, Luchio Acosta's not here. I'm going to have to do some things. And they all worked together and did their jobs. And you see these better build out. They still struggle playing out of the back. That's still a thing. But this shape by having wingbacks and having, a double pivot, you now have 4 guys that you can help build out to from the back. You have a better ability once you turn it over to have multiple guys up front that are on the same page playing together, and you get these goals that create combination play and have these sequences that work like they're supposed to work. So the thing just flows without Acosta. Now, Luchio Acosta is a great player, but for whatever reason, everyone wasn't connected with him and functioning with him. That's the thing. Like, you would bring him back the minute you can get everybody dialed in where he's in this particular system now, probably going forward, getting it all to work like it's working without him. And that may be, I don't know whether that's just because everyone's reactions or whether he's doing something. It may be hard to know without being in the locker room. So like the team play, the group play is so much higher when Acosta's not in there. And it's amazing that that's true.
Well, the other observation is that when Acosta's not in there, it doesn't feel like the team is singularly focused on getting the ball to Luchio. When Luchio's in the game, it feels like that's the only thing anybody has an aim for doing. And when he's not there, it feels like the team actually plays together as a team. And also Luchio's turnover rate, walking around after he turns the ball over, all the other things. I was thinking about this when I was watching it the other night, because Ramiro isn't very mobile, but Kaick is, like we call him, the golden retriever of the team. When Luchio's not out there, Ramiro's lack of mobility isn't as big a deal because somebody else is playing that position that is making an effort to come back and cover.
Yeah.
And so when it's Ramiro and Luchio out on the field at the same time, that midfield, that whole kind of middle of the field looks a lot slower, especially in defensive transition, coming, attack to defense. The team looks a lot slower because you got one guy that's not just standing there and another guy that's, doing his work, but at least the guy who's replaced Luchio is putting out some effort. So I think that's some noticeable differences.
And it's important too to remember, we talked about this a lot last year when they tried this shape, this 3-4-3, this 10-less, if you will, kind of shape, which is what they're doing without Acosta. It's important to have those wingers be relatively narrow. Like, we see a lot of heat map of Farrington and Bernie both playing, and even Musa dropping into midfield at times, being that third midfielder. All those guys have to participate in that, and the trick would be when you bring back Luchio, if you put him in for Bernie, he needs to be able to fill that wide component in that channel, that middle channel, or out to the wing, and also work hard enough to drop back in as the 10 and be that third man in midfield. So, like, it's working because both of the quote unquote wingers are fulfilling this role, this outside to inside role, and filling those channels and not hugging the line. They're giving the line to Shaq Moore. They're giving the line to Torquato. And they're playing up the middle and yet overlap wide when necessary and check back when necessary.
Yeah. The one thing, especially getting to see it in person on Saturday night against St. Louis, is it does look a little hairy when the middle of the field is comprised of just 2 players. And you've got 5 guys, 2 guys, 3 guys, or 3 guys, 2 guys, 5 guys, depending on whether or not they have the ball. And man, it just feels like some other team could really take advantage of that with just a slight a tactical adjustment on their own part, because that looks really sketchy in those patterns of play when it's just those 2 dudes standing in all that field by themselves.
Well, that's why we call it a 3-4, because it's important for those wingbacks to come up and provide that horizontal width in midfield. It's one of the reasons why I think over time, the second game we saw Alvaro, and they obviously want to get Urguide back in there, because those 2 guys are really rangy and they can cover out wider. They can cover out these breaks, and whether you're on offense and your 2 wide guys are getting up, or whether, or even the times where both Ramiro and Kaick were crashing into the box and they left the middle wide open.
Right.
Maybe we can work on that timing a little bit and not have both of them go at the same time. But, it takes a group awareness. You have to be aware, like, when I go, who's covering for me, who's got this spot, like when they turn. There were a couple of times where St. Louis, for sure, this happened where Dallas turned it over and got caught with both of those guys up. And you see dudes like Bernie sprinting back, or you see Farrington sprinting back. Guys are trying to cover up for each other, and that's a real positive that you still see that work ethic for each other that sometimes was missing over the last month or so.
Dan, did you watch the San Jose game by chance?
I watched parts of it.
Have you
watched the whole thing? Unfortunately,
would you like to tell people what happened on the game tying goal that broke our hearts? Can you? Right after the kickoff, they go up 2-1.
I'm trying to recall that now.
Buzz, do you want to break that down?
Well, the most important moment is that the fact that there's a letdown there, a mental letdown, and they sort of. And Quill even talked about it in the post game. He's like, we've got to still. Like our worst moments are right after we score, when we relax. And that's basically what happened again, this one. And is that the play where Kaick went flying and missed? Yeah. And this is this is what we talk about with like, I talk about how I hate tackling. And to be very clear, what I mean is the 2-footed flying
going to ground,
where you've left your feet and you now have no control over your body and your momentum. And if you miss, if the guy steps over you or steps around you, he's clean and gone. And that's exactly what happened. And now he's a 19-year-old kid. And in the next game, I don't hardly remember him doing that kind of leaving his feet at all. So that's an area in which he's rapidly improving and learning. Obviously, that's a huge learning moment for him that he got overextended and missed bad. And then they were able to walk in and get that goal quite easily.
I feel like somebody else, though, lost that guy from midfield, and Kaick picked him up late.
Yeah, he crossed half the field to make that sliding tackle. That's a wonderful piece of effort and shows his range. But leaving your feet in that moment is the wrong decision.
Yeah,
so
you're right. But
I don't remember whose previous mistake. It probably was Ramiro, to be honest.
No, Ramiro was off another part of the pitch. Delgado stepped up to close down the guy on the ball, and it looks like there was just a breakdown in communication. So Kaick was like 2 steps behind the guy that crossed in the end.
I mean, the only thing I remember was him flying off his feet, and I was like, no, it's super slow-mo in my head.
Well, and then it's exacerbated by the fact that there's some question as to whether or not the ball crossed the end line, and it should have been a dead play at the begin with.
Yeah,
but,
whatever.
And VAR does look at a lot of people were very frustrated. It was like VAR didn't check it. VAR checks all that stuff. They just make a decision whether or not to go to the referee and let him look at it. And the commentators only made a passing reference to it. So I don't know.
There was also the net cam actually had an angle that showed the ball dead on the line.
Yeah,
I
was fairly certain that there was no way they were going to overturn that just based on the lack of anything definitive. I didn't see the net cam angle, Dan. So if there was something that you saw that showed that the ball hadn't crossed the line, then kudos to San Jose for having the gumption to pull that off and tie the game. It was a little bit of a heartbreak because that would have been a fantastic 3 points for Quill and the team if they had actually pulled it off.
I think on that goal as well, both centre-backs are in front of the front post, which just seemed a little bit... But I think part of that was because Shaq Moore has really stuck to his guy out wide, trying to close down an option. But yeah, you've got Marco Farfan trying desperately to chase across from the left to cover Joseph Martinez when your 2 centre-backs are,
It was a mess. It was a collective team pooping of pants for sure. Was it fun? All right. So then Saturday night, Burn stuff aside, they walk out. They look great in their kits. And I feel like we're not being objective unless we point out the fact that St. Louis is a really poor soccer team. And it was a great night for a lot of reasons. But most of my notes that I was putting in my phone as I was watching the game up until the 80th minute, when Petar Musa was essentially allowed to make that, to turn that amazing moment into a fantastic goal. We'll talk about that in a second. Was that Dallas was always this close to just giving up a goal and it being a 1-1 game like that against a really, really bad team, because they just couldn't put St. Louis away. And I do wonder as we get to this and we all have feel goods because we're all so desperate to feel good about this team, that the reality is that these are 2 results against teams essentially at the same point or way lower than them in the table. And as I watched this team Saturday night in person, I really began to think to myself, man, what would a Philly or an LAFC or, one of the a Seattle or somebody do to this group at this particular moment in time? Because there is still a lot of problems with this group, which is amazing considering how much better they look prior to this.
Well, on one level, beat who you're supposed to beat. That's important too.
For sure. Yeah.
The second
100%.
level, there's a little bit of a rotation in there. Jetson at one at right wing back, which is interesting. Anderson Julio's not back. They're essentially playing without two DPs now because Acosta is not being picked anymore, and they're down DP because they're using U22 initiatives. Delgado's not on the field, one of your better U22 initiatives. Augusto's looking nice, but he's super raw. There's a general tendency in this team with its eagerness to be really physical, well, not physical, really energetic and really aggressive. And they sometimes will over pursue defensively. They want to over try and cover for each other. And sometimes you have to kind of just let your teammates do their job. You have to have faith in them a little bit. Well, that puts you on a little bit of an island sometimes when you have a couple of guys starting, your center backs perhaps who maybe shouldn't be MLS starting center backs anymore. And one guy who maybe is going to be one in the future. So this team didn't turn into a top 3 team in the league overnight, right? No. It just, they were really, really struggling. They found their way back to what they were before, which is a team that can fight, particularly on the road, but and it's nice to see it happen at home. They can fight against a team that's in their neck of the woods. The previous wins we've talked about, Sporting, right? Houston, teams that are down near them in the standings. But if you want to work your way back into the playoffs, this version is a team that can at least give themselves an opportunity. I'm not saying they will. It's a lot to ask. But they can at least fight and put some product on the field to compete and win some games. Now, do they still have problems that keep them from being an elite team? Absolutely. But those problems are going to take this next window and the window after that really to probably put themselves in a position to be like a legitimate, probably still not a top 3 team, but maybe like a top 5 or 6 team if they can make the right moves to fit the way Chloe wants to play. So it's just a step forward. Even if that step is back to where you started the season, it's still progress and it's still good. It's still important. It's still nice that Quill hasn't lost the locker room. It's still nice to see Quill have enough power that when he thinks I really need to drop this expensive player, it makes me better that he has the juice to do that. Whether the club will make some decisions in the next window based on that or not remains to be seen. Can Quill coach well enough to get a couple of these guys back in and be useful pieces? I don't know, but the team looks way better now than it did 2 weeks ago. And there's something to be excited about in that regard. Even if it's just that Petar Musa is scoring again and the thing's clicking again. And if that's all it is, you can take that and go forward. And even guys like Bernie look more engaged than he's looked ever before. There's just lots to be really pleased with, relatively speaking, for this stage of the season.
I agree. And while I don't think Bernie has been playing well of late, and there's a difference. Yeah. I'm kind of surprised that he got called for the start this particular, because he was, as you said, he seems more engaged and he's trying to do things, but I just think fundamentally he's not ready to be an MLS starter. I don't know if he ever will be, but there's just a bunch of stuff missing to that kid's game.
If you don't have Pedrinho, you don't have Acosta, Chu's gone, who's your other wing? Like we saw Sarver eventually come off the bench. You'd have been going with Anthony Ramirez, who right. I love, but also is 19, 18, whatever he is, and has played 5 minutes. So there are not really a lot of choices other than Bernie, unless you did what they did before, was use Delgado as a wing. And you saw how, other than Delgado's fantastic set pieces against San Jose, which looked great, his play as a wing didn't look so great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll get to Sarver in a minute. We've got a whole Sarver section before we get over there. Dan, I'm curious as to your observations about the state of the team post, or at least absent Lucho.
I don't even know if it's the team as much as kind of what you mentioned earlier, reading into the things that Quill said. He talked about San Jose being like a turning point off the field even before the game, that a team going through that run of form you'd expect to see when they're at meals, quiet, no one really talking, but everyone was really chatty, lively, kind of sticking together. Now, to say that the turning point came immediately after sending your star player home. Read into that what you will. He also mentioned and we're going to talk about Sarver obviously, but the impact that Sam Sarver specifically had brought just by being a very lively character. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It seems to be very much like, all right, so tomorrow's another day. They were kind of plodding along before he was there, and they'll kind of get by after.
So I haven't been. I think this is probably the third game I've been to in person this season. But my observation from the game really was tied to Sarver's introduction to the team. Now, obviously, I'm familiar with Sarver because I've heard Buzz talk about him and his play with North Texas. I've never seen him play, at least not in person. And when he stepped on the field, I took notice of him immediately because the kid came out, and I was aware of the fact. For those who don't know, the reason why the Sarver story is so amazing is made all the more amazing by the fact that the kid had played with North Texas, the B team, the night before, and had scored not one, not two, not three, but 4 goals in 50 minutes. He scored 3 of them in the first half, and the 4th one just a little bit after the start of the second half, and then was subbed out, flew all the way back home, was in the 18 and got Dallas up 2-0, was put out on the field to play out on the right wing, and instantly went out there and was running harder than everybody else on the field. I mean, the energy that kid put out instantaneously changed the vibe in the building. And then the moment where somebody plays him a ball wide, he stands his defender up, passes the ball into space, and then just outruns him, gets the ball back, cuts into the box. And I thought, Dan, I don't know about you, but I thought he was getting ready to line himself up and he was going to score and the place was going to go absolutely apeshit. But instead, the defender does the only thing that's left and tries to win the ball, and he gets the PK. And then Samuel Sarver gets up and does a celebration like he had just won the $1 billion lottery.
I'm not sure he was even up at the time. He just kind of rolled through it and was celebrating mid-roll.
It was unbelievable. And then the energy in the building absolutely changed, and you would have thought Dallas had won MLS Cup. It was so great, and it was exactly the moment, at least in a home game, that this team is so desperately needed, is to see a guy wearing their shirt acting like he gives a shit beyond just the regular standard stuff that you see out of him. That kid was so excited to be there in that moment, and he was so excited to get the fans fired up. And when the fans got fired up, he just got even more fired up.
Well, immediately preceding that, there was the ball over the top. I think Musa tries to flick on for Sarver to run onto, and he fouls the guy. One, Sarver goes absolutely ballistic, probably because he just realised that was a great chance for him to run through and get 5 goals in less than 24 hours. But then he turns to the crowd. He starts pumping them up.
Yeah.
After the goal, starts pumping them up in the last few minutes of a 3-0 win. It's that kind of energy is crazy.
It was instantly my favorite new Burn player. I mean, it was fantastic. And somebody, I wish I so apologize to this particular person who made this analogy. I've forgotten who it is, and I wish I could give you credit for it, but you're so spot on. The kid is filled with Bobby Ryan energy. Like, that is the most Bobby Ryan moment we have seen in this stadium since Bobby Ryan. And it was great to see a player care that much. And the question that I've been asked a couple of times after the game and since then is, well, why wouldn't Buzz? Is Sam Sarver going to start over Bernie the next game? And I'm going to guess the answer is probably not. And you've probably got a really good reason for that.
Well, the main reason is he's been rostered now for 4 FC Dallas games, and a short-term signing from North Texas can only do that for 4 games. And then you have to be signed. Like the MLSPA doesn't want endless guys coming up. You can bring up different guys, But you can't abuse one guy by signing him in North Texas for $5 and then bringing him up and having him play for FC Dallas all year, right? You got to pay people what they're worth. So at this point, if my understanding of the minutia rules is correct, he will now need a FC Dallas contract to play the rest of any more this season. Well, you can sign him directly. I think you could do a full-time loan up, but I think then you might have to adjust his salary. So at that point, what's the difference? They have him for next year on an option anyway. So at North Texas. So, the other side of the coin is it's a North Texas player. And while we love the energy, we love all that, they might have to, if depending on the number of bodies that get moved out, he could be a supplemental player, which is the bottom end of the roster. That's probably salary appropriate. He could be senior roster, which takes a lot more money. If you want to put him on the supplemental roster, like who are you moving out? Because there's not room down there. Do we put him on the senior when we have these other moves we have in mind coming? So maybe they know already what they want to do, and maybe it's going to happen tomorrow. For all we know, the kid obviously can contribute, so there's no question about that. It's just a question of when the mechanic works to make it happen, and will he take the money they put on the table? Like, the kid is confident. If you offer him a minimum salary, will he take it, or will he roll the dice that you need to pay him more? I mean, I don't know. I'm not his agent. So not a simple answer as to why it doesn't happen tomorrow. They do have open roster spots. They are looking at some other moves. So, nothing happens in a vacuum. We have to consider the other things. I don't know. To me, there's no reason why there isn't space for him, and I think they'll get it figured out. I think they will. So it just may not be instantly. That's all.
Dallas has signed a player, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. More about Sarver here real quick. I want to explain how impactful Sarver was, because I was sitting in section 106, famously known as the library. Now, I don't yell at all as a fan in the stands anymore. I stopped doing that years and years ago. But when he won the PK and Dallas is up 2-0, and it's the 85th minute of the game, clearly Dallas is going to win the game. That's not the problem. I saw Sarver, the ball ended up in Petar Musa's hands, and almost involuntarily, it just came out. And I said it, and if you know me personally, I have an obnoxiously loud voice. I yelled really loudly, "Let Sarver take the PK." I mean, it just seems so obvious that Sarver should take the PK. And I said it 2 or 3 times. I was like, holy Christ, let him take the PK. And the library actually broke into chant, guys. People in 106 in the library all began to chant Sarver, Sarver. And it went on for, I don't know, a good 10, 15 seconds before it finally fell apart. But it was pretty remarkable that this kid stepped on the field and got the library to actually break out into chant. And that was a pretty great moment.
You could hear that chant on the broadcast.
It
came
great.
Over the broadcast, the Sarver. So, it is a great moment, and he's an Energizer Bunny of a player, and I don't think there's any reason why you wouldn't add him. Again, just a question of the mechanics.
Why wouldn't they let him take the PK? I'm sure there's a protocol hierarchy of senior player or whatever. But
$13 million striker out of the field. That's why.
But Musa, come on, let him take the PK.
I actually asked him about that after the game. Did you have any thoughts of not taking it, but asking for it? And he's like, no, absolutely not. It's Musa's.
Well, I don't know if everybody else noticed this, but when everybody lined up for the PK, I don't even know if I've ever seen a player do this before. Sarver stood on the side of the 18-yard box. Have you ever seen anybody do that before, Dan?
I can't think of a time in pro soccer.
I can't think of a specific, but I know I have. Because if the shooter goes to that side and the keeper saves it, it can come right to you. So I know people have done that.
It was remarkable. Well, I'm glad Musa finished it, but Sarver should have taken the PK. Yeah.
He's an interesting kid. I was talking to him just before he did the MLS 360 interview, and he said growing up he moved high school 4 times, and he absolutely loved doing it. like just to meet new people and kind of be that. So it's like, okay, I guess coming into a new team, perfect environment for him.
Yeah, he got. If you haven't watched it, go find. I think Dallas tweeted it out or put it on social media. He did a whole 5-minute interview with the MLS 360 crew. Turns out that Bradley Wright Phillips knew him and had trained him at Columbus.
Did when he was at the Columbus Academy, it was the year that BWP signed on with them and they did preseason together.
The moment where Sam goes, "Yeah, I didn't know if you'd remember me." Brad's like, "Yeah, of course I remember you."
So I'm in the room when they're getting set up for that, and the producers like kind of talking through, and Sam's just kind of talking to everyone in the room, and he's like, "Yeah, it's funny. I did preseason with Brad. I wonder if he'll remember me." And you just hear the producer just pipe up, "Yep, that's one of the reasons we asked you."
That's great. Okay, so Buzz, since I'm going to guess most people really don't know much about Sarver and his skill sets, obviously he's good at attacking space, and he's a get in behind the defense kind of guy. Yep. Is he a guy that can actually maybe help Dallas in some way through the rest of the season? Is he that quality of a player? Is he ready to do that?
Well, if nothing else, you can use him like you just use him, which is late game energy off the bench. I mean, when you bring that he's got pace. He's shorter, but he can really run. And he can run at people with the ball. He can run and get behind people. He can go inside and combine. He's not going to be like nifty little dribbler and dribble through like a triple team or anything like that, but he can dribble and run past people and play in combination. So you can use him as a wing. You can on either side. You can start him as start or bench him off as a 9. He's a little short for a 9, but he can play a very direct kind of 9. He's a good leader with his effort and his intensity. Everyone seems to like him when he scores. Everyone celebrates with him. So absolutely you can use him over the course of this season. Now, is he going to start in front of an Anderson Julio or a Musa? No, don't be ridiculous. But, when you have a guy that's proven he's capable of scoring at a really high level at North Texas, that's what we want to see when we talk about transition for that kind of player. He just showed in this game that he can get at people dangerously enough to put himself in position to score, which, again, he might have converted if he hadn't been taken down for the PK and that kind of thing. So, yeah, if they can figure out how to get him on the roster, they can absolutely use him this season.
Well, Dallas put a kind of a timeline together of his situation over the course of the 24 hours and the 4 goals that he scored for North Texas. I think it was against Kansas City, too.
Yep.
3 of the goals are him just blowing past guys. The first or second one in particular is not dissimilar to what happened in the FC Dallas game, where he just stood up his defender and threw the ball in behind and just outraced the dude to the ball. It was fantastic. And all of the finishes were actually really mature, easy, just slot the ball past the keeper kind of finishes. I was really impressed. So I hope we get to see more of my favorite new Burn player, Samuel Sarver.
Yeah, he ain't 17. He's 22. He scored a lot of goals in Indiana. The kid knows how to play.
Yeah.
No question.
For
He
sure.
also played, I think he played USL League 2 every season, so he was getting that kind of
a little extra, yeah.
Slightly more adult soccer.
Yeah.
And Samuel will be joining me in the particular hair club at some point later in his life, too. And I'm proud of
you.
I'm proud of him for that. Well, all good. So Dallas ends up getting a home win, a clean sheet, celebrating the heritage of what happened prior to this club. It was a great night all the way around, and we may have seen a little bit of a star in the making, and it was a great night all the way around. Now, Dallas has an odd Friday night game at home coming up against NYCFC. Anything in particular we should know about that in advance, guys? Take it away, whoever.
Let me talk about FC Dallas first, and then if Dan has stuff on New York, he can do that. There was a little bit of rotation in this last game, right? We saw Shaq Moore get a game off. We saw Farfan, who had been playing center back, but, didn't get a start. Now, remember, there is Tigres reported interest in him, so who knows what that is. But it makes a lot of sense that you could bring back both Farfan as a wing back on the left and Moore as a wing back on the right. I thought Augusto looked pretty good in that back 3. I'd be okay with that continuing. Obviously, they're trying to get Urguide back. He got more minutes in this game, and by the time you give him another 4 days off or so, maybe he's ready to be a start. Kaick and Ramiro, I think, is fine. Leave that alone. I have no idea when Anderson Julio will ever be able to play again. For like 3 weeks ago, he was questionable for 1 week, and now he's back to out. And we haven't seen anything on him. So in the meantime, I don't know why it wouldn't just be Farrington and Kamungo with Petar Musa for the front three. You get into questions of, does Luchio Acosta or Pedrinho get back on the bench or not? Otherwise, I think it's pretty cut and dry, aside from Iragide and the wingback rotation that happened. It's all pretty straightforward at this point. You do have a couple of guys that may come in on the next window, but they're not ready for this game. They can't even be added to the roster yet. So, if they get Sarver done, which they can because he's part of the organization already, it's just a change in his status with the new contract. You could get him done. Would you start him in front of a Bernie or a Logan Farrington? I seriously don't think so. So I think most things are pretty set, with the possible exception of Delgado, who played wing and did some really nice things, serving the ball. And he looks pretty good when he has to slide back into that wide midfield spot. Didn't look nearly as good when you actually asked him to play wing. So he's a possibility in there. And really, that's about it. There's not a whole lot of debate for Quill, other than I don't think there's any reason for him to bring Acosta back unless we see some sort of, or hear of some sort of effort in training or something like that. I mean, we may be looking at quite a while before we see Acosta or Pedrinho in the 18 based on coaches' decisions.
I want to come back to that second, but it was dawning on me. Now that we've seen Iragide play late in both the last two games and sub in, is there a chance that he may start and we'll get the Boubacar, Iragide, Ibiaga trifecta?
I think it's possible. You're trying to push up his minutes. Like you don't start him when you officially do. You don't start him thinking he's going 90. You start him and thinking, I want to get him past halftime. Because he came in a little earlier. What was it, like 30 minutes this last game, Dan? I think maybe. So you want to push that up.
Less than that, I think.
Was it less than 30?
Yeah,
maybe it's one more bench game then, perhaps. Is there? I think there's a break after this game. Is there not for FC Dallas? Don't they have a week off next week? So the first week of August they're off, right?
Yeah, they're off. They don't play until the 9th.
So maybe if you're being look, you're not going for MLS Cup, so. Okay, one more game for Iragide off the bench, bring him on at halftime maybe, and see if you can get 45, 50 out of him. And then he gets 2 weeks before the next game, and then, he'll be ready to start, right? So, don't go crazy. The other guys look pretty solid, so, no reason why you can't go Ibiaba, Boubacar, Augusto again. Or if you love Torquato and you want to bring Farfan back as that center back, that's okay. But I thought Alvaro Augusto did pretty good. I want to see him go again.
Yeah. Now, since you mentioned it, and it's funny because I know I joked about this on several podcasts ago when Buzz started talking about the Luchio Acosta problem, which was its own on-field problem, absent of all this other ridiculousness that's going on today or currently. And we made the joke about, well, maybe somebody who's a contender might be willing to take Lucho off Dallas's hands because they're trying to make an MLS Cup push. And here we are at the transfer window. Dallas, this is the part that I don't know. And again, this is a byproduct of the fact that the club just doesn't give anybody very good access to ask them questions. Do we think that Dallas is actively out trying to find a way to disassociate itself with and get rid of Acosta at this point?
I don't know, man, because that's, doing that means you have to admit that you screwed up. And listen, let's not make revisionist history. We all thought that getting a player like Acosta was a great idea. I think you were right, Peter, when you said, if they don't go get him when they could have, we'd be blasting them for it, right? So everyone was on board with that move. It just hasn't worked. So it can be hard to admit that it hasn't worked. Maybe they want to think, 6 months is a little short. Let's see if Quill can work him back in. At the same time, you remember he asked to go back to Argentina, and Cincinnati sold him to Dallas instead. He wanted to go home. We know that his salary would probably prevent that in terms of a transfer, or a loan or something like that. So, maybe they can work some magic and move him. But
and that was Zanata's apparently really good at doing is selling.
Yeah. But at the same time, they might want to just say, hey, you're the coach him up. We got a fat asset here. remember that's their idea is like, we just get the players for you. It's your job to coach them. So they might be like, he's a good player. Coach him up.
If you can find somebody to take Anis Solly and get another team to give you $9 million for Alan Velasco and his missing left knee, somebody's got to want to take Luchio Acosta on a cheap deal somehow.
He said he wants to go to Argentina. So if you can sell him to Argentina, that would be terrific. And you can get out of at least part of the money and open up that DP spot. That's, maybe you have to use your buyout on a bunch of the money or something. And then you're talking about pocket money. That's a little different. So like, it would not shock me to see them want to just, they're not good on the sunk cost part. Sometimes they're like, we paid money for this guy, we're keeping him, So it's hard to predict what they're going to do in the next window. Is anyone else going to an MLS trade even for a short-term deal? Because remember, the contract is through 2026 with an option. It's not 2025 and an option. It's 2026 and an option. So someone's thinking, I got to take on $3 million base, 4.3 with incentives. I got to take that on for this year and next year, and he's going to be 32 next year. Like, is someone, even if you're in an MLS Cup chase, that's a DP money. That's tough to add unless you really, really need a 10. And I don't know if that qualifies for anyone who's in the MLS Cup chase. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. Let's see what they can do.
What do you think happens to Pedrinho? I know maybe he's just the running buddy in all of this, but obviously, and people, I've been seeing on your Discord that people have been following him on his Instagram account, and he's been posting some weird stuff that people are speculating is indicating that maybe they feel like they look at that and speculate that maybe he's not long for here either.
Well, he and Acosta, I'm told, are super tight, super close. And that's why he was with Acosta when, and got in trouble with Acosta and was sent home with Acosta. Yeah. So I'm not going to get into the various things I heard because none of it matters. What matters is you broke a team rule. There have been times before people broke a team rule. And the bigger reaction is about, what it means to the locker room that Quill's taking control of it and stamped it down and said, I'm not letting it happen. Acosta's got way more juice. Pedrinho has no juice. He has no juge, no power. If Acosta's gone, does he think, oh, okay, I'm gonna, never mind. I'm cool. I'll play along. I'll be a team player. Or maybe I'm being disingenuous. Maybe he just got caught up in it and he's a 20-year-old kid. There's still lots of career ahead for him. I wouldn't, rule out keeping him around. I think that there's enough ability that if he's not being, 22 years old, if he's not being, pulled in ways by someone that shouldn't be pulling him in different ways, then maybe he's a perfectly legitimate player. Relatively good price. He's on $100K. They only have him through this season though. So he's easy to just, at the end of the year, if he's burned enough bridges in your locker room, just let him go, Okay. And if you send him to train with North Texas, play with North Texas, no one's going to care. It's just a dude, right? Send him to play with North Texas if you really don't want him around. It's all about Acosta. That's, Pedrinho's just window dressing at that point.
It is crazy how Dallas benefits from the lack of media attention in this town. It's these exact situations where there's nobody in the media paying attention or gives two squirts that totally works in Dallas's favor.
Oh, imagine if he was a Cowboy and he was like your second quarterback or something, how bonkers it would be. It would be all day on talk radio.
The captain of any other pro team in town is suddenly now, not even making game day rosters, and nobody knows why. And the excuse given or the reason given to the public is quote unquote personal reasons. Nobody would put up with that.
Yeah, FC Dallas is not known for publicizing guys that have gotten in trouble for breaking league rules.
I get that.
Yeah, before you may not remember this, there was a time where I can't remember exactly who it was. It was Jesse Gonzalez and two other players. This is before Jesse's big problems. They all were late and they made the whole team miss a flight, like a charter flight out of RSL or whatever.
was one of them.
It was three guys, and those three knuckleheads, caused this huge problem. And so they got benched for a couple of days, and Dallas was just like, oh, it's just personal coach's decision. It's like, dude, you made them miss like a charter flight out of Salt Lake City or something like that. It was like that. It was like the whole airline had to delay. Like it was a mess. I don't talk about that.
I don't blame the front office for doing this because they get away with it. They know they can just put this out there and nobody's really going to ask them what's going on.
Right.
And that's the real shame in all of it. But Dan, before we move on, I know that you talk to people too. Are you hearing anything different or additional about this that you want to share?
No. There was one thing that I found a little bit odd. It's the fact that after the game, Luchio Acosta walks across the field. It felt like a situation where you're like, hey, you can watch the game, but like just keep quiet, weird. Because the first thing people saw is him walk across the field, and then it's personal reasons. What's his personal reason? Obviously, he couldn't miss the game.
Yeah.
So then, then suddenly there's this notion of, oh, he quit on the team, but like Pedrinho doesn't receive that same because nobody saw Pedrinho. Just, I don't know, seemed like a little bit of mismanagement from, I don't even know what side of the team that would fall on.
I don't want anybody to get the sense that I'm sticking up for FC Dallas, but it's not like Luchio Acosta doesn't have a reputation for being a pain in the ass and commonly being on the wrong side of these deals. I mean, he essentially ran himself out of 2 clubs prior to this. And there's I've read so many different various versions of events with the Cincinnati situation. The DC one I kind of understood because of the whole, he wanted to, was it PSG that wanted to buy him, or somebody in France wanted to buy him, and it didn't happen, and he was unhappy about that. The Cincinnati one, I've heard various stories, everything from not getting along with the coaches to they're not staffing the team correctly in terms of supporting players, just something going on with his wife off the field. I've heard everything, but by and large, the kind of common thread is that he's just really difficult to deal with, and maybe he is really difficult to deal with. But I will point out, as other people have pointed out, his personality traits and behavioral issues were all brought up to one Andre Zanata in his press conference about this. And Andre Zanata threw out the very cocky, I've worked for teams. I'm Brazilian. I know how to do this. We remember that moment, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a grade here on how he handles this next window.
Yeah,
how he handles Luchio Acosta, and if he just dumps it all on Quill or not is part of that process of reviewing that stuff. And like, look, if you don't, let's say your person out there that like says, I don't know where you guys are getting that. I believe the personal whatever. That's fine. Look at how the team reacted when Luchio Acosta got taken out of the team. Look at how much better it plays these last 2 games with that dude not on the roster, right? So clearly that alone demonstrates that the Luchio Acosta problem was real and that it exists beyond just like what he's doing in terms of the tactics.
Yeah.
There's a bigger problem here, so like they have to sort this out this next window. And the answer could be, you're just not going to play the rest of this season. In spring, you can try and win your job back. Or maybe it's they're going to try and move him. We're going to see. Then what they do this window, the proof will be in the pudding with Bolsonaro and Quill. What's going to happen with that guy and Acosta.
Maybe Lucho will go the Diego Luna route and get himself a job at a coffee shop so he can learn how to do human interaction better.
I doubt at this point in his career that he's going to do that.
You walk into a Ascension and there's Luchio Acosta making up espressos.
Just rocks up in his Ferrari and puts his apron on.
Right.
My assumption at this point is he'll again ask to go home to Argentina.
Yeah, probably. All right. Well, lo and behold, the team has spent some money, $1 million being reported for picking up Haitian international Lucius Don Dietzen, who is coming over from the Belgian second division. You know what? Here's the thing. Here's a guy. I didn't realize this until after the fact. I have actually seen this player in person play. I watched him score a goal against my national team, and I don't remember any of it. His qualities, nothing. I mean, I have no judgment on him whatsoever. So clearly, he's a standout player.
Well, the first thing we should be very clear about is that the interwebs let us down. He does not, in fact, have U.S. citizenship, as we were led to believe by the interwebs. So he does require an international spot, which is a bummer. It would have been nice to get him through without that. But yeah, we're, pacey, over the top, get behind wing, right? Isn't that what we've heard? Kind of a loose touch. But so is he another Obrian? Is he another, I don't even think of a good example, Castillo? Or is he one of these guys who just comes in and can't get on the same page with everybody else. Well, I guess we'll see when he gets here.
A guy over on Blue Sky named Paul Harvey, who is pretty well regarded in terms of his scouting of players and everything, just unsolicited, posted that he apparently has watched a lot of Dietzen play of late, and he had some questions as to whether or not he was going to be MLS quality or MLS ready. And my reading of his response was he felt like he was pretty much on Kamungo's level, which is this is not a team that needs another Bernie Kamungo level type player, especially one that you spend $1 million on and give up an international slot for.
Well, for $1 million with a reportedly up to $4 million in incentives, he better be a guy that can bring more. Now, if he's not going to make a big impact, well, we have 11 games left, and the window is going to open up by the end of this week. So, he's not going to be playing Friday, so there'll be 10 games left, right? So I don't know if my math is correct. I don't know how concrete of a difference that guy can make if he even becomes a starter in the amount of time left. At this point, when you're doing moves this late in the season, the window's really late this year, and you only have 10 games left. Most of your moves are really, you almost have to consider this a precursor to next season in a lot of ways. So, because when a guy comes in, for him to get on the roster, which might take a week or so, remember the guy's going to have to get a visa, and he's Haitian, right? Not always the easiest combination. So there could be
steps up from being Venezuelan.
Right. Well, I'm not trying to make some judgment. I'm just seeing the way the world it is right now.
Sure, I get it.
Right. So visas can be slow, particularly from places like Haiti. So, is there going to be 4 games left by the time he's here? And then it's integration into the team, tactics. How many games will this guy actually start by the end of the year? If it's more than 5, I'll be amazed, and I'll consider that a huge victory. So really, this is a guy for next season. And so at that point, you Quill wants 2 vertical wings like Anderson Julio. Bernie hasn't been great. So this guy better be better than Bernie. Or you've wasted your money. If you're not better than Bernie, you've messed up big time.
Is Sarver better than Bernie?
He might be. If Sarver finishes the year in North Texas, his numbers will be pretty much what Bernie's were when Bernie signed. Now, Bernie has stagnated. Bernie's at North Texas. Sarver will do just about the same numbers if he stays there for the rest of the year. So, kind of on the same page coming up. Sarver's got boatloads of confidence and is really hot and playing really well and really aggressive and feels good about himself. Bernie's been in a slump for 2 seasons and maybe doesn't feel great about himself. Sarver's played in a bunch more systems and arguably probably coming through Indiana and coming through Columbus's academy, probably has played a whole lot more games with a good technical coaching staff. Whereas, Bernie didn't have that until he got to North Texas. So really he's not had that nuanced level of tactic development his whole career. So Sarver might be more polished at this point. What does that mean for Bernie? I don't know. Plus Bernie usually plays left and Sarver usually plays right for whatever that's worth. So I think you'd have to look at Sarver more as a Anderson Julio right side backup than you would a left side to replace Bernie. Whereas this other guy being a lefty, you might look at him as Bernie's a lefty. This guy coming in is a lefty. This guy's coming in to maybe take Bernie's spot in this new double wing system.
All right, so FC Dallas has their weird Friday night game against NYCFC up at the stadium, and then North Texas, featuring one Sam Sarver, have a home game, not in Arlington, but in Frisco. And what is this game they're playing up in Frisco on Saturday night?
It's an international friendly against, originally, I think, Dan, it was against the team that won the Reserve League, I think, in Liga Mexico. So the idea was that you were playing your second team champion versus your second team sort of champion. I think maybe the team changed. So it's just a really good Mexican reserve team, second team.
It's the same team.
Is it the same one? Okay, I guess
Deportivo Tapatio. It's Chivas' second team.
So basically the idea is almost you remember they used to have that, what was it called? Interleague Cup, where it was just MLS champion versus League MX champion. Remember that? So this is kind of that, I think, for the second team.
The second division team and MLS Next Pro.
It's the Enter NIT Cup.
Yeah.
Interleague NIT Cup.
So you can, if Sarver's going to be signing with FC Dallas, you won't see him in that game. If he's not, then he'll be down, I would assume, with North Texas playing in that game. And there are other good players to watch with North Texas SC. So you can get your ticket for them up in the Frisco area and watch them play. And it'll be fun.
I'm sorry. If you're not Sam Sarver, I'm not sure I don't care.
Yeah, that's fair. Fair for Peter.
Don't listen.
I did not assume nothing else would be Peter.
Don't listen to me. Texoma got
You want to talk about Kappas first?
Oh, yes. So sorry. Good Lord. The most MLS story of all MLS stories. There are reports that one Chris Kappas has found his way finally back home.
Yeah, I don't know where this is in terms of being over the line. I can confirm it's legit. That discussion is on the table to some stage. I don't know if it's finalized yet. So it was easily predictable. We predicted at the minute Quill was hired that this would happen. If you guys don't know, Chris Kappas came up through Houston Texans when Quill was their coach. Kappas and Chris Richards won the DA championship at like 18 years old. Quill then handed the two of them to FC Dallas. After the one season of the FC Dallas Academy, FC Dallas tried to sign both. They signed Richards. Houston had the territory rights on Kappas and blocked his signing, even though there was no mechanic by which Houston could sign him, and he never would have signed with them. So I wrote this article at the time about how Houston stiffed Dallas out of signing Chris Kappas. So he went to Europe, and he's played in Norway and Sweden and a couple of other places. He met his wife over there. He's been, I don't know, something like 4 to 6 years now. And what I will tell you is he is a box-to-box 8. I actually rated him personally higher than Paxton. Now, that is when he came out of the academy. Now, it was only a little bit, but Kappas is like 6'1" and a big, huge physical midfielder with lots of willpower, and he would dominate games.
He's more like Tessman than he was Paxton in terms of size and just kind of being a unit.
Same position as both of those guys, too. Kappas can 6 a little bit, but he's a box-to-box guy, can score from deep. Just my favorite story about him was he got a U.S., I think it was a U20 camp call-up, and he went to Spain, I think. And it was right about the time of the Dallas Cup. And he came and he flew back from the States like overnight on a plane, 24 hours, landed at the airport and at like 2:00, and they had a game in the Dallas Cup at 5. And Chris Hayden was like, "Hey, you're back. That's cool. Come join us. Watch the game." And Kappas is like, "No, I'm starting." And they were like, "Oh, okay." So he walked off a plane and he went into that game against, it was somebody from Brazil. I can't remember who it was. And he bossed that game. The kid has got guts. So his career has not quite gone like I expected, but he's Quill's guy and Quill knows him. And so I think if they get him, at a price that we've seen reported, if they get him at that price, if he just turns out to be a dude that Quill trusts and is just a role player here, that's still a good ad because he'll buy in what the coach is doing. He'll work hard and he's a great locker room guy. If he actually resalvages himself and becomes even better, remember, this is a guy that was a French national teamer. He and Paxton both were like January campers or like some of those European camp, like fringe national team stuff.
He took Paxton's place on one of the youth teams when Paxton had to stay behind in Dallas.
Yeah, had a cap or two with the national team. I can't remember how many, or they were official, or they were just friendlies or whatever. But that's the level we're talking about of a player here. So, not a guy, you shouldn't be upset when FC Dallas signs a guy that was right outside the national team. Those guys don't get call-ups. They don't get pulled away. They're going to be around. So I think this is a great move, even if he just turns out to be a roster guy. And I think he's got a chance to be better than that under the coach that knows him.
Well, we're kind of giggling, or at least I kind of giggle when I see them sign a guy from a second division team in Belgium and a Haitian international. And I don't giggle when they sign Chris Kappas, who's playing his game over in Norway and has been, banging around different Scandinavian leagues for the last 5 years. But that's because we've seen this kid play. We know what he's made of. We know who he is. Dietzen may show up here and absolutely ball out. I hope he does. It's just on the track record. On the overall track record of Dallas going out and finding guys like that, it's not necessarily as successful. Yeah. So,
and Kappas is coming home. Yeah. His family's from Texas. He's not a transplant. He's from Texas. He's got a young wife he's bringing with him. He's going to be happy. I assume he's going to be happy here. We know what we're getting in him with the hope that he can be better than that.
If he signs, is that quietly any kind of indicator about the status of Pomacall?
Yes. I think so. I think.
Are you speculating or do you know something?
I'm speculating. Okay. I think this signing would have been happening no matter what with Paxton. And maybe you can look at him as Show's replacement, maybe.
Okay.
Instead of Paxton's. But, at this point, any kind of 8 that comes in makes me think Paxton.
Yeah.
Got $1 million salary for a guy that doesn't play. When you play, it went something like 6 minutes, 9 minutes, 55 minutes out for a month and a half. If you can't do 55 minutes on $1 million, we love Paxton, but that's ridiculous, man. We can't have that on a roster. You can't waste that kind of money. So, and plus anytime you're bringing in 8s, you have to wonder about Paxton. You include Leggett, by the way, who's on $1 million and is 32.
Right.
You have to think about that too. Remember this window, because it's so late, is about next year. Okay. It's not about this year. It's about next year.
Thanks for bumming me out, Buzz. Appreciate it.
Sorry, man.
All right.
Trying to keep it real.
Back to the Birds. Texoma ends up getting a draw against Chattanooga 1-1. Is this a continuation of the winning streak? Or is a win? Oh no, the winning streak got busted. Game. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they've lost 1 in 10. I think it is now. So just ridiculous what they're doing. They had a defender score, which is always fun. They're up in 7th place in the standings. They got 2 games in the USL Cup, which I know you love, coming up, Peter. So one against Union Omaha and one against Colorado Switchbacks, which is always a fun name. So just one of the most insane turnarounds I've ever seen. And if you get a chance to go see him play, you should.
Okay. Dan, anything going on with Trinity these days as their second season looms large?
Pre-season's underway. They just signed another local player, Lauren Lapamada, originally from Prosper, fullback. Actually signed from where'd you sign from? One of I think it was Parma. It was an Italian team. She was University of Texas's record holder for most appearances. She was in the Solar National Championship team with Lexi Massimo and Trinity Bayer. Played with them both at UT. So be interesting to see what they get. She got straight out of college into the Italian second division. She has Italian citizenship as well as American. I don't know how often she played. Could only see one thing that said once, but didn't really look too deep into that. So they've signed a couple of fullbacks, which is good. Obviously Julia Dorsey's gone. Atali Palomo's gone. So they've got some shoes to fill there.
What's the coaching situation?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay.
Yeah, they're looking for a coach, and Chris will coach them until they find a coach.
Okay.
But when I talk to him, he really does not want to coach. So they will be actively after one.
Which means he'll end up coaching.
Yeah.
You and I, we all know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah. I think they need a center back. Stop me if you've heard this before. Dallas needs a center back.
Right.
So I think you might see another ad by them, perhaps by the start of the season. But
yeah, I was trying to figure out if Lapamada was a centre back, but that's where I saw Palmer described her as a complete fullback. So I was like, okay. Still got that hole there.
That's the Dorsey replacement. Yeah.
Well, maybe when she's leaving Parma, she'll see on her way out, she'll see Gio Reyna and say hello to him as he's on his way in.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly. All right. The very new and unusual FC Dallas U23s are in the Final Four of the League of Cups.
Yeah.
Which sounds very made up, but whatever.
League of Cups.
The League of Cups.
Oh, that's a typo. League of...
The Cup of Leagues? Wait, the League of Clubs. That's what it
is.
Many
clubs.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
I went full Will Ferrell. What's the name? What's the
crown? Let me down. Anyway, the Final Four is being played at Toyota Soccer Center. So you guys, anyone who wants to, can go see these games. The FCD U23s, led by my man Diego Hernandez, they're taking on Michael Hitchcock's Napa Valley 1839, Hitch's team. So local connections on both sides of that
one?
pitch. Well, one of his 8 teams. Yeah. He's got like 12 or 15. I don't remember how many. It's one of his teams.
Hitchcock owns an entire league of teams.
Yeah, he almost. Well, they're on all different leagues too. That's the crazy part.
That's not shady at all.
Yeah, that'll be a fun game. The U23s are like I think there's legitimately somewhere between 3 to 5 players on that team that you could see signed as homegrowns and/or get drafted by us.
Is this Zach Lloyd's team?
It's Zach Lloyd's team.
Okay,
who is turning out to be one heck of a coach, and I think you have to now shortlist him perhaps if you had some sort of coaching opening come up in your organization. I think you'd have to look at him hard because he's continuously coaching up teams and taking them far in leagues and just doing a great job with that club. So the first game against Napa Valley is on the 24th, which is that Thursday? At 7:30 p.m. and then the finals on the 26th, which I believe is Saturday at 3 p.m. So if I'm looking at the calendar correctly, you can correct me if I did not.
All right. Well, Buzz, where are you exactly, sir? You're not in this part. Have we talked about where you are yet?
I think I mentioned in passing that I was in Boise, Idaho, on my way south.
Have you had any potatoes so far while up there?
I did a couple of days ago. Yeah.
How were they made? Prepared?
It was heated up on a stove with a steak, just like
a baked potato.
Yeah, on a grill. Wrapped in foil, put on the steak, and cooked up, and then.
Was it delicious?
It's delightful. Yeah, of course. I mean, it's not like they're everywhere here.
What does Buzz Carrick put on his baked potato?
Whatever they put out as the toppings. I like lots of things, starting with butter, of course, but sour cream, or you'll think I'm crazy, cottage cheese, whichever one someone puts out. Bacos, yeah.
Cottage cheese on your baked potato?
Why not? Yeah. Cheese, yeah, all the good things. Whatever they got, I'm piling it on there.
Okay. Gummy bears?
No, don't be silly. Steak.
So what else do you have with your cheese and baked beans?
Not baked beans. Bacos.
Why not? That's what's made for it.
Baked beans on a potato?
Chocolate chips?
Yeah, that's what it's made for.
That's ridiculous.
Smart fudge. Just see
the
Buzz going
potato
full
toppings.
Baked potato suicide.
Exactly. Baked beans.
Yeah. Syrup. Yeah.
Some cinnamon.
Yeah. Some Vegemite.
I love it. All right. When are you back in town, dude?
Friday.
All right. Well, drive safe.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Well, hey, I had a great time Saturday night. For everybody that said hello, thank you so much. It was great to see everybody. I got to take a picture with Doc, by the way. It was a great picture. Doc sporting his authentic Burn shirt. He looked great in it. Was so happy to see him. And I got to meet his mom too. So that was cool. All right. So thanks to everybody for making it a great night. And it was good times. Hopefully we'll have more of those this season and fast. Dan, thank you very much, sir. Salut. And Buzz, drive safe.
Thanks. Let me just throw one thing in there. Rest in peace, Rags Gardner, one of the original photographers of FC Dallas.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah. His wife, Christine, passed away. I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, and he just passed away within the last couple of days. If you've seen early days Burn photographs on our website, it's almost certainly going to be Rags' photos. He took a lot of pictures and shared them with lots of people, and he was around the team a lot in the early days, and he just passed, so rest in peace.
Yeah, absolutely. That's sad and unfortunate to hear. Thank you for sharing, Buzz. All right, everybody. Well, I think that's going to do it. We'll have much to talk about on the next episode. We'll be in the break, as Buzz mentioned. Buzz, Armin, as a matter of fact, I think is trying to pitch you for a live Third Degree episode.
Yeah.
How you feeling about that?
I don't
know.
Do it.
Throw it up on the YouTube?
No, in person.
Oh, in person? Like, where would we do that?
I don't even know.
Hitch's place.
Oh, okay.
In McKinney?
No, I'm not driving to McKinney. Can we do it somewhere down here in Texas, in the Dallas area? Do we have to go to Oklahoma?
Yeah.
You live like 20 minutes from there.
Whatever you guys decide. You guys figure it out. If you guys want to do a live episode in person somewhere and invite all the curious, that would be a lot of fun, actually.
Okay.
A curious gathering, you might say.
It may
I don't
be.
even know if we could do live. I have to think about that.
Say that again?
I don't even know if we could do live. I'll have to record live.
That's
maybe.
fine. Just don't fuck up, and then it won't matter.
Yeah, you'd have to bring a computer and a setup and the mixer. We'd have to get some gear to pull this off. Yeah, I'd rather just put it on. Let's just do it on Riverside and stream it on YouTube. Let everybody watch it at home.
Yeah. We'll see.
And I could wear a shirt and no pants and nobody would know.
Like you're doing now.
Sorry, I digress.
You just do that behind a desk. You're good.
I lined up for a dismount and fell off the pommel horse. Now I got to get back up and dismount again. All right, Dan, thank you.
The pommel horse?
Yeah, that's it. Buzz, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you, DFW area soccer curious fellows. We will speak to you next week, one way or the other, another episode of Third Degree, the podcast.
Unbeaten next week. No, wait, shit, fuck.
Dan just pommel horse that dismount.
Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.